In Lixing County, there is a man named Yin Tianjun, a poor family when he was a child, but he was brave and insightful. In the county, there was a mansion of a big family in the old times, covering dozens of acres of land, and the pavilions were strewn with buildings and pavilions. Because of the mysterious and strange things that often happen, the mansion was abandoned and no one lived there. Over time, the mansion was gradually covered with weeds, and no one dared to go in during the day. One day, Yin Tianjun was drinking with a group of students, and one of them joked, "Whoever dares to spend the night in that place, we will all pay for his banquet together." Upon hearing this, Yin Tianjun immediately jumped up and said, "What's so hard about that?" So that night he went to that mansion with a mattress. The people escorted him to the gate and joked, "We'll wait for you here. If you see any ghosts or fox spirits, you will call out quickly." Yin Tianjun smiled and said, "If I really meet any ghosts or fox spirits, I will catch them as proof." After saying this, he went inside. The courtyard was filled with tall artemisia grass, which completely covered the path. It was the first quarter moon, and the moonlight was faint, but enough to recognize the outlines of doors and windows. He groped his way through several courtyards and eventually came to the pavilion at the back. Climbing onto the moon deck, he found it luminous and beautiful, and stopped there. He looked to the west and could only see a line outlined by the mountains. He sat quietly for a long time, without anything unusual happening, and he mentally laughed at the rumors that were circulating. Then he lay down on the ground, using a stone as his pillow, and looked up at the star of the cowbird in the sky. Gradually, 1 o'clock in the middle of the night was about to pass. Yin Tianjun was somewhat in a trance and wanted to sleep. Suddenly, footsteps came from downstairs, as if someone was coming up the stairs. Pretending to be asleep, he opened his eyes slightly, only to see a man in green clothes holding a lotus lamp, who suddenly saw him and was so frightened that he took a few steps back and said to the others, "There is a living person here." Someone asked, "Who is it?" He replied, "I don't know." Shortly afterward, an old man came up the stairs, walked up to Yin Tianjun, and took a closer look, saying, "This is Yin Shangshu, and he is already asleep. Let us just go about our business. You are wise and resourceful, Lord Yin, and perhaps you will not blame us." So they all entered the building together, the doors of which were all open. As time went on, more and more people came upstairs. The lights upstairs were as bright as day. Yin Tianjun turned slightly and sneezed and coughed. The old man left when he heard that he was awake, kneeling down and saying, "A daughter of my family is getting married tonight. I didn't expect to run into a nobleman here. Please don't be deeply offended." Yin Tianjun got up, pulled the old man and said, "Your daughter is getting married tonight on her big day. I didn't bring any congratulatory gifts. I'm really sorry." The old man said, "Your presence has already brought us good fortune and honor. Please also stay and share a seat to multiply the honor." Yin Tianjun readily agreed. He walked into the building and saw that it was magnificently decorated. Suddenly, a woman came out, aged about 40 or so. The old man introduced himself. "This is my wife." Yin Tianjun bowed to her. Soon, the sound of sheng music rang out, and someone hurried up the stairs, shouting, "The groom is here." The old man greeted him, and Yin Tianjun also stood up to greet him. Soon, a young man was led in, surrounded by gauzy curtains. He was about 17 or 18 years old, with outstanding and elegant looks. The old man ordered him to salute his honored guest first. The young man's gaze fell on Yin Tianjun, who played the role of officiating. The old man and his son-in-law then bowed to each other. And after the salute, everyone began to take their seats. After some time, the maids brought out fine linens. The fragrance of wine filled the air, and the golden bowls and jade marigolds gleamed, their light reflecting on the table. After a few rounds of wine, the old man called the maids to ask the bride to come out. The maid answered and went in, but did not come out for a long time. The old man got up, lifted the curtain towards. A few moments later, a few maid servants to help the bride out. Her body's gold bracelets and jade bracelets issued a crisp sound. The aroma filled them. The old man ordered her to bow to her honored guest. After rising, she sat beside her mother. Yin Tianjun glanced at her slightly, only to see that she was wearing a beaded phoenix hairpin and bead earrings in her ears, with a stunning appearance. Afterward, a sumptuous banquet was served with golden jars filled with fine wine that seemed to hold several buckets. Yin Tianjun had a plan that this golden jug could be used as evidence to verify his identity, so he quietly hid it in his sleeve. He pretended to be drunk and fell down at the table, and the people said, "The squire is drunk." Soon after, the groom said goodbye and left. The sound of the sheng music resumed, and the crowd went downstairs to leave. After a while, the host cleaned up the drinking utensils, but realized that a golden jug was missing, and searched for it hastily, but could not find it. Some people were talking about the guests privately, but the old man hurriedly stopped them, fearing that Yin Tianjun would hear them. Only after some time, when the interior and exterior had quieted down, did Yin Tianjun begin to get up. There were no lights in the darkness, only the aroma and smell of wine filled the air. He looked to the east, the sky was already brightening, and calmly walked out of the gate. Probing into his sleeve, the golden jewels were still in it. He walked to the door and found that the students had already waited there, suspecting that he had left during the night and returned in the morning. Yin Tianjun took out the golden knighthood and showed it to them, and the crowd all rose to express their surprise and inquired about the situation. So Yin Tianjun told them in detail what he had experienced. Only then did everyone believe him. Thereafter, Yin Tianjun won the grade and was appointed to be an official in Feiqiu. One day, a man of the family named Zhu invited Yin Tianjun to a banquet and ordered a huge goblet to be fetched. Yet the goblet was late in arriving. A servant covered his mouth and whispered something to his master, whose face became angry. Soon after, people brought in golden jars and urged the guests to drink freely. Yin Tianjun looked carefully and realized that the style of the golden knighthood was not different from the fox items. He became skeptical and inquired about the source of making the gold knighthood. The host replied, "There are 8 of these gold knuckles, and when my ancestor was the secretary of the capital, he specially found an excellent craftsman to make them. This is a family treasure that has been passed down for a long time. Because of your visit, I happened to take it out of the box, but one was missing." Suspecting that someone in the family had taken it away privately. But after 10 years of sealing, the box containing the gold jewels remained in its original state. This is really unexplainable. Yin Tianjun smiled and said, "The golden jade feathered and flew away, I guess. However, this valuable worldly possession must not be lost. I happen to have a similar item here that I can offer as a gift." When the banquet was over, he took out a knighthood cup and presented it to the host. The host, who was amazed at its careful observation, came in person to thank Yin Tianjun and to inquire about the origin of the cup. Yin Tianjun told the story in detail. Then they realized that the object thousands of miles away had been brought by a fox, and Yin Tianjun did not dare to stay long.